the Arcturian group message. Channeled by Marilynn Raffaele. Welcome, dear readers. Even though nothing appears to be improving in the outer scene, know that increasingly more are awakening each day, and beginning to question their beliefs, and the systems that hold them in place. The changes that the world continues to hope and pray for can only manifest through the consciousness of the people of Earth themselves, and not from some far-off three-dimensional concept of God. Divine Source consciousness embodies no duality, or separation in it, aware only of itself, and its expressions, because that is all that exists. As increasingly more begin to recognize the error of separation, the contents of Earth's collective consciousness will become more enlightened, in turn allowing higher resonating, and more evolved ideas to be accessed, and acted upon. This is how change will come, and this is the work you, and all who are awake are doing. Freedom is every individual's birthright, and not something that must be fought for, prayed for, or anything else. Freedom is free, and always has been. The popular saying that freedom is not free is false. However, like the many divine qualities that remain dormant in the majority, true freedom can only manifest from a consciousness that realizes oneness with Source. Makes it impossible not to be free. As your personal evolutionary journey draws you more deeply into an understanding of your true selfhood, you discover, as many already have, that you become increasingly aware of, and free from many things that up to now have held you in some form of physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual bondage without your even being aware of it. Can God be bound by man-made rules and beliefs? Could God ever be kept in bondage? Is God subject to the whims, and desires, rules, and regulations of human minds? A lack of freedom remains very apparent throughout the world, because the majority has not yet attained a consciousness of freedom, and believe that they are only powerless human beings. The people of Earth will continue witness a lack of freedom on Earth as long as there remains even one who believes in separation, and duality. This is, because there is only one consciousness individualized as the many. That one false belief will then manifest in some way, because there is no unmanifest consciousness. But remember, your consciousness is the law unto you, and not the collective, although you will be aware of, and continue to experience some of the collective, while living on Earth. Every person has choice as to what they accept, or reject. Energy is always seeking to align with like energy, and the state of your consciousness will attract from the collective those thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that align with your energy. However, thoughts that come floating into your mind are impersonal unless you claim them as yours, at which time they then become yours, because you have made them a part of your consciousness. Example: a person who continually worries about disease, and their health will automatically attract ideas, and experiences of disease, and heat from the collective. As a person spiritually evolves, and their energy becomes more refined, they become more sensitive to the frequencies around them. Many very evolved young people who incarnated specifically to add light to Earth's ascension process, are having a difficult time now, because their energetic sensitivity is causing them to feel the negative, and low resonating energies, anger, depression, frustration, low self-worth, etc., so apparent on Earth at this time. Because they don't remember who they are, or why they came, they believe these feelings, emotions, etc. to be theirs personally rather than being external to them. If you have a young person suffering from this, explain to them what is going on, that their sensitivity is allowing them to feel collective energies that are not theirs. Many are beginning to actively protest for personal freedom. Because so many have integrated the higher frequencies that have been pouring to Earth for some time, increasingly more are becoming aware of how freedoms on Earth have been manipulated. Those who do not yet understand that freedom is already fully present within them by virtue of their oneness with God, will seek it through actions and outer activities that align with their present state of consciousness. You will be seeing increasingly more of this. There is an opening and awakening indicative of evolutionary change taking place that is causing many who never before questioned personal freedom to now question. However, you reading these messages already know who you are, and that the qualities of Source including freedom are fully present within. So for most of you, there will be exceptions. The work of bringing freedom consciousness to the world will take place more on the inner levels rather than an outer. The increase of light on Earth is causing many to awaken, and begin attempts to regain the personal freedoms they ignorantly allowed others to take in their lives. Freedom to be one's self in relationships, job, family, and religious affiliations. Permanent freedom can only manifest through consciousness, because consciousness is the substance of form, which is why third-dimensional tools are often ineffective. True freedom is struggling to be born at this time, and every person is sensing it. It is not three-dimensional concepts based in ideas of separation that will lift the world out of financial, marital, employment, or religious bondage, but rather mankind's realization of their already present completeness. However, there remain those in the world who use media as well as other forms of communication to keep the majority from realizing innate freedom, because once a person, or group realizes true freedom, they are no longer controllable. Know, and actually accept that you are already free, dear ones, by virtue of freedom being a divine birthright available to all. Attaining the consciousness of it begins with knowledge, the understanding that you are already free by virtue of your oneness with Source. Follow this by practicing, bringing to mind, this truth in every situation that arises personally, or globally. Acknowledge that freedom is a divine law even though the world in general is not experiencing it fully at this time. Gradually a sense of freedom will begin to grow within you in spite of what may be taking place in the outer scene. This will bring with it new feelings of empowerment that begin to dissolve old feelings of victimhood, allowing you to easily say, "Thank you for your opinion, but I am going to do this." Attaining a consciousness of personal freedom often brings about anger and resistance from those who do not want change, and in some cases expect a person to continue doing what they tell them to do as before. Resistance will come from family, religious, or social groups, husband, wife, friends, etc., but as long as decisions for personal freedom flow on streams of love rather than those of anger, resentment, revenge, etc., innate freedom will begin to grow and blossom. Always say, do, and take actions from a place of love even with those who may be angry, demanding, or resentful of the changes you are making for yourself. This never means surrendering to another's unwanted desires and choices for you, but rather means that you firmly, and in ways the other person can understand, state your truth from a consciousness aware of the other person's divine nature. There will be times when you must simply play the game a bit, and there is no harm in this, because what is important is what takes place in your consciousness. Always trust your intuition to guide you. Once an individual chooses to open themselves to seeking spiritual truth, they are guided in new directions, some of which are not always pleasant. Know that the difficult experiences manifest on all levels for every person once a choice to spiritually evolve has been made. These experiences are not accidental, or a sign of spiritual regression, but rather come through an individual's higher self, the real self, who knows what lessons the person is prepared for, needs, and is ready to learn. Individuals frequently choose to incarnate into situations that will reactivate an old energy they may have been actively carrying and suffering with through lifetimes, but are now spiritually prepared to clear. For example, a person who has carried and suffered from sexual abuse lifetime after lifetime will be allowed, if spiritually ready, to incarnate into a situation of active sexual abuse in order to personally activate these deeply buried energies, move beyond, clear them, and evolve into a state of consciousness that no longer allows, carries, accepts, or can ever again experience sexual abuse. These dear ones often then become counselors helping others do the same. Human minds can only judge by appearances, but remember, nothing is as it appears, for everything in the third dimension is a material interpretation of a spiritual reality. Spiritual reality underlies all appearances, or there would be no outer manifestation. Trust the process, and allow yourselves to let go of the three-dimensional shoots. And should not, you may still hold in consciousness. Be who you are, in the freedom of divine reality. We are the Arcturian group.